Hello, everyone. I'm Holly Thorne, the Community Relations Coordinator for the Stormwater Quality Division here at the City of Oklahoma City. I'd like to officially welcome everyone to the first session of our 2026 webinar series. Before we begin hearing from our presenter, I'd like to provide some information to help enhance everyone's experience during today's webinar. To reduce background noise, we ask that everyone keep themselves muted during the presentation. If anyone has any questions during the presentation, feel free to type them into chat. We will be monitoring the chat for questions, and we will have our speakers answer as many as possible. I do know that Teams has made a change with the chat and some of our organizations speaking to each other. So if you do have a question and you're unable to get a hold of that chat and type it in, please save your questions for the end, and I'll make sure I give time for physical questions. If anyone would like to receive a certificate of attendance for today's webinar, please send us a request via email. We will place my email address into chat so you'll have it handy. Each of our recorded webinars will be available on our website as well as OKC's YouTube channel. We'll post a link to the web page here so you can find those recordings toward the end of today's session. If anyone has any questions at this time, please feel free to type them into chat, or if you need, let me know and I can get you up on actually talking off mute. Up next is the presentation for today's session. Today, we are pleased to welcome our own Jordan Peebles with her presentation, Building a NPDES Phase 2 Outreach Program, Scalable Strategies from OKC. Jordan Peebles serves as the Watershed Planning and Outreach Supervisor for OKC Stormwater Quality Management Division, where she leads a team that implements a robust, multifaceted public education outreach program. Through consistent collaboration with internal and external community partners, she develops initiatives that improve urban water quality outcomes, advance environmental awareness and public engagement, and support compliance with municipal stormwater program requirements. Again, if anyone has any questions during today's presentation, be sure to type them into chat. Jordan will be available at the end of the presentation to answer any questions. Jordan, I'll hand the reins over to you and you may share your screen and begin your presentation.
Thank you, Holly. I'm just going to move some things around on my screen. I can stop sharing. Okay. That. All right. Please send me. All right. Can everybody see that? Holly, is that visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for attending today. As Holly said, today we're going to be talking about developing an outreach program through the lens of a Phase 2 MS4. I do want to, before we get started, I want to preface this presentation. So today we are going to be talking about, some complex programs, permits, and really any one of these, developing an outreach program or discussing the requirements of the OKR4 permit, even as we're limiting it to just one MCM. These are, we could spend a whole day talking about any one of these topics. So we're going to try to stay, fairly high level as we move through these requirements. But if you have any questions, like Holly said, I'm available after the presentation, and I'm always available by phone or email if you want to dive a little bit more deeply into anything we talk about today. So as far as what we're going to talk about today, what I'd like to do first is discuss what the actual general permit OKR for Phase 2 small MS4s, what are the actual requirements in that MCM1. Then we're going to talk about the general challenges of public outreach and engagement. Then I'm going to dive into some of our programs and how these programs would meet a phase 2 MCM1 permit requirements and how they can potentially be scaled. And then to close, I want to make sure that we provide different resources for you to help you meet these requirements, to help you implement these programs. There's a lot of different partnerships that you can develop, other city departments that can serve as resources, other cities. So we're going to provide that next step and then end with some recommendations for you moving forward. Now, before we dive into the actual requirements for the OKR 4 MCM1, I want everybody to kind of keep this question in the back of your mind as we start talking about these requirements and looking at the permit and different programs. Is how can you hope to engage the public if you're not actively engaging with the public? So by this question, we're talking about passive outreach versus active, right? And you're going to see this theme throughout the presentation. So as we move forward, just keep this in the back of your mind, and we're going to come back to it. So diving into the permit itself. So the permit that we're going to be discussing today is the current OKR 4, which is the 2021 version. You can find that on the DEQ website. The way the permit is designed is with the 2021 version, the MS4s in Oklahoma were further divided into different categories. And this was based on population. So the graph to the right is straight from the DEQ website, and it's showing all the different MS4s that are regulated under these regulations here in Oklahoma. So the top line, you have the individual permits, of which Oklahoma City is included, followed by Tulsa and ODOT. And then below that, you're going to see 3 columns, one for category 1s, then category 2, and category 3. So category 1s, you have, you'll be designated in that category if you have a population of less than 10,000 people. Category 2 is a little unique, where they bring urban area into the scenario. So you can be a category 2 if you're less than 10,000 people, or greater than 10,000 people, but less than 50 if you're within an urban area. But you can also be considered a category 2 if you're greater than 10,000, but less than equal to 100,000 people if your population density is greater than 1,000 people per square mile when you're outside of an urban area. And then category 3 is just greater than or equal to 50,000 people. So you can see as far as the distribution, category 3 has the smallest number of different MS4s, followed by category 1s, and then 2 are the most extensive. Before you start looking at what the permit's actually asking you to do, I want to look at what the goal of those requirements actually are. And this is straight out of the OKR 4 permit. So you have 2 parts within MCM1 that it is really telling you what they really want you to accomplish with your programs that you develop. So first, it's OKR 4 Part BC1A. And I've highlighted the action words that you need to pay attention to. So the first one is they want you to distribute information and educational materials to the community and the MS4 staff. They want you to promote behavior changes, mainly to reduce pollutants and stormwater runoff and to eliminate illicit discharges. Any program or activities that you design, they want you to target specific audiences and then communities. So distribute, promote, target. The second section is OKR 4 Part BC1B, and they're using inform and encourage. They want you to inform your community about the importance of reducing pollutants and stormwater, and then you want to encourage their active participation. So now we're going to dive right into what the MCM1 actually says. You'll also remember that for the 2021 version of the OKR 4, what DEQ did is they drew all of the educational requirements from the other MCMs and included them in MCM1. So all of the educational outreach requirements are in MCM1 now. They're just broken down by the following MCMs. So this is a high-level look at what the requirements are, educational requirements are for each MCM. So I've broken it down by, who your target audience needs to be for that particular MCM and the topics that they are asking us to cover. For a few of them, you'll see there's also an additional requirement. So we'll cover that as well. So for MCM2, that is for industrial stormwater runoff. Your target audience are local industries as well as city staff. And what they want us to cover is industrial runoff, as well as inspection and enforcement of BMPs. So, industrial runoff is directed at the local industry, and then inspection and enforcement of BMPs is directed to MCM staff so that our staff is able to actually go out to a facility, conduct appropriate inspections, and perform enforcement of any best management practices. For MCM3, that is covering illicit discharge detection and elimination. So your target audience really includes anyone within your MS4 that could potentially discharge pollutants into our conveyances, into our water bodies. So for this one, you're really looking at pretty much everyone, but in the permit, it's saying their general public, your businesses, as well as city staff, city operations. So the topics is they want you to discuss the hazards that are associated with illegal discharges and also the improper disposal of waste. The additional requirement with this MCM is that they also ask that you develop a public-facing method where the public can report any illicit discharges that they witness. That way staff can, accept them, consider them, and take action. MCM4 is over construction site runoff. The target audience for this particular MCM is developers, as well as MS4 staff. So this is very much like MCM2 as far as the target audience. It's related to that particular topic. Where the topics are construction runoff, which is directed towards the developers, and then you have the inspection and enforcement of erosion and sediment control BMPs for city staff, for our inspectors. Like MCM3, MCM4 also has an additional requirement that requires you to develop another public-facing system where you can receive, concerns and complaints from the public regarding construction site runoff. With post-construction management as MCM5, your target audience is the general public as well as developers. And this is trying to emphasize project designs that will minimize water quality impacts. So we're talking about low impact development, potentially native plantings. So you can see where the general public would come into that, trying to promote, water-wise plants, native plants, water conservation, rainwater harvesting, those type of topics. With MCM6, that is purely related to MS4 operations, our good housekeeping. So your target audience is internal. You want to focus this education towards city staff. Your topics is really just to prevent and reduce stormwater pollution from any MS4 operations. Now, we won't cover the following requirements as part of this presentation, but there are additional requirements listed in MCM1, and these include developing a public-facing system where you can receive and review public comments on your stormwater management plan. It also asks that we comply with state and local public notice requirements. So this could apply to meeting announcements, new publication of in reports, stormwater management plans. Most municipalities are really very familiar with this requirement. They also ask that you make program records available to the public somehow, whether it's on your website, your notice of intent, your stormwater management plan, and your reports. Most municipalities also have the Freedom of Information Act that you can make these public documents available to them. And finally, they also ask that you direct education to different companies, institutions that would likely have a significant impact on your 303D impaired waters that are within your city boundaries. So those are the requirements. That's what the permit is saying that we have to accomplish with our programs. In addition to the content, they've also provided several tables within the permit that further summarizes the requirements. The one that you see on your screen is table V2. So this is breaking down the requirements by your MS4 category. So earlier we talked about how the permit breaks down phase 2 MS4s into additional categories. That's all this table is showing. It's breaking down the MCMs on the left, MCM 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And those are further broken down by the type of activity. So we talk about the different audiences for each MCM. That's what this table is reflecting. And you can see for each category, if you look at MCM 2, those third and fourth rows there, for category 1 and category 2, those are empty. There's no requirements. And MCM 2 is for industrial stormwater runoff. So the only category that has to focus and develop programs to address those requirements are category 3s. There's also an additional table that we're going to look at a little bit later, table V1. And all of this information, including the actual content in the permit, is also summarized in table 2.1, which is located in the back of the permit as exhibit 2. So you'll remember at the beginning, I asked you guys to kind of remember a question and have that in the back of your mind as we go through this. And that's reflecting again here. So you'll notice on those top 2 rows for MCM 1, it's talking about public education and public involvement. So again, they're differentiating on the approach and the methods that you're using to help educate the public. So we've established what the requirements are. Now we need to discuss what are the challenges of actually implementing these programs? What are the challenges inherent with an outreach program? So the first one that really comes to mind is reaching 100% of your audience. And this is tied to visibility. Coming from our perspective, the city of OKC, we're the 20th largest city in the country. So reaching 100% of our audience can be challenging. This is all ages, all backgrounds, no matter where they live within the city boundaries. We want to make sure that we're trying to reach absolutely everybody. Funding budget is something we are all really familiar with. There never seems to be enough, right, to accomplish everything that you would love to do. So this is a very real reality for municipalities. Limited staff, turnover, and burnout. This is a really familiar concept. There's always more to do, and we all wish we had more staff, and we must do what we can to meet these requirements with the staff that we have. But with limited staff, there's always that chance of turnover and burnout. So you have to be able to monitor your staff to make sure to avoid those 2 issues. Internal silos. This is a big one. There's a big misconception with stormwater permits, and this is really across the country, that a stormwater permit is solely the responsibility of a stormwater program. And even here in Oklahoma City, there's a lot of different MS4s where the stormwater division could be in utilities, it could be in engineering, it could be in public works. There's no real consistency. But it's not just, this is a city permit. These are assigned to the city at large. But that's one challenge that we have, is to help educate these other departments and get their buy-in and participation to help us accomplish these programs that we've set and make sure that the city can stay compliant with these requirements. But so we really have to focus on breaking down those internal silos, developing those internal relationships so that the city itself can be successful. Lack of resources and technology is another challenge. And this will be different for absolutely everybody, depending on the size, your budget. This is just another real reality. Now, the second half of these challenges can be looked at from a couple of different ways. The ones we already talked about, those are pretty specific to the institution, to the permitted agency. The following can also be seen from our perspective, but the way I was looking at a lot of these is it's more from our target audience's perspective. So as far as communication barriers, coming from their side, it may be they speak a different language, that English is not their native tongue. Maybe they are audiovisually impaired. Maybe we've seen this across the country where our unhoused population is growing for various reasons. They won't have access. So communication barriers is a real reality that we have to consider when we're developing programs. Barriers to accessing information is a similar related issue. And this can be maybe they don't have a computer at home. Maybe they don't have cable. There's a lot of different barriers that we could consider. Now, ease of participation, when you're developing programs, let's say it's a volunteer program, if there's a lot of hoops to jump through and you're asking them maybe to bring their own supplies, travel is extensive, the easier you can develop a program, make it easier for people to actually participate, where all they really have to do is show up, you're much more likely to get regulars and have people want to participate when it's very easy for them to do so. So ease of participation can be a challenge, and this is tied back into your funding, your budget, how much staff you have, resources, technology. All of that ties into how much resources you have to dedicate to a program to make it as easy as possible for the public to participate. Lack of tech literacy. I know we run into this a lot with our program. Not everybody has a smartphone. Not everybody understands how a QR code works. We have, we actually still have to operate sometimes on paper order forms and mail them to folks because they're not comfortable doing a purchase online. That's kind of second nature for a lot of us, but that is not everybody's reality. And finally, feelings of powerlessness and apathy. So all of us, we operate in the environmental arena, and a lot of the environmental concerns we're facing today, they seem very big, very complicated, and it's very easy to feel powerless in the face of those issues, and that can kind of start to slide into apathy. Well, if I can't do anything, then I'm not going to do anything. If I can't have an impact, there's nothing I can do. I'm just one person. So it's our job when we develop our outreach programs to provide hope to people and make them realize that every little thing that they can do is going to make an impact. So we've talked about some of the challenges just inherent with outreach itself. But once you start developing programs and you start wanting to communicate with the public, there's also, well, how do I relay this to them? And because there's so many polarizing attitudes to climate change, pollution, there's finger pointing over who's really to blame, who's to be responsible. So using this type of strategy is really important with environmental education. And I have heard when I first started in outreach and 15 years ago, there was this approach, and it's pretty consistent, is that you want to develop your outreach materials like you would if you were speaking to a third grader. And it's always been a tough approach for me to follow. I don't want to quote unquote dumb it down. What you want to do is just simplify the message, and it's not the same thing. By simplifying your message, you're still respecting the public's intelligence, And all you're really doing is you're just assuming they're unfamiliar with the topic. It doesn't mean they're not intelligent. It doesn't mean that they, don't have expertise in another area. It's just they're not familiar with this topic. Another method is to use storytelling. Storytelling has been in place for eons. That was really how history was recorded early on. And so it's just been around forever, and people enjoy a good story. So use storytelling, use visuals, and that really helps you to create that connection. And like I mentioned, on the previous slide, was just provide people hope. You want to make messaging accessible. You want to make it engaging, and really want to make it actionable. You want to make them feel that they can make a difference. I have received some advice from an old colleague, and he told me, you never want to mention a problem unless you're also providing a solution. So that is what that actionable step means, is that you're providing them a way, you're providing a solution, you're providing an action that they can do to make a difference. And of course, you want to avoid jargon, avoid using acronyms, industrial terms that, the general public are not going to be familiar with, and just focus on what the essential message is. By what I mean by, do not, quote unquote, dumb it down. You don't want to talk down to your target audience. You also do not want to remove necessary context. Very often, what we are working with, it's not just black and white. Very often most things are pretty gray. So if you remove that context, it's creating an unrealistic picture for the public. You also don't want to focus on the negative without providing actionable steps. Kind of goes back to that, always provide a solution. You also don't want to remove, scientific accuracy. You don't want to oversimplify the facts, because that really leads to misinformation. And honestly, we are dealing with enough misinformation, so we definitely don't want to add to it. So this is the second table. If we go back to the OKR4 permit to see, what it actually says, what it includes. This is a second table that they have provided in MCM1. And this is really examples of what you could potentially do, different programs that you could develop. You'll observe that many of the educational activities are designed more for passive learning, right? This is, you just, create a great brochure, maybe you drop it off at libraries, you have a permanent kiosk in your lobby, you're doing press releases, drafting newspaper articles, you have your publications online, you might be doing signage along trails, you have a storm drain marking program, you're making use of your utility bill and adding articles, you're developing videos, or you're using your website. These are all fantastic options, and they definitely have their place. And I can tell you that we utilize pretty much every single one of these as part of our program. And they all really offer valuable contributions. However, I am a firm believer in the power of active engagement programs. And I think these are the initiatives that really resonate with individuals. And I've witnessed their effectiveness with our own programs. So on that second column, the public involvement activities, for the most part, we've also used every single one of these as part of our outreach program. And I do want to show you, we're going to come back to this question again. So how can you hope to engage with the public, if you're not actively engaging with the public? So I want to show you, just based on the results of our own programs, that active engagement, being out in the community, you really will see the results in your program. So as far as our program, the number of total outreach events that we've attended, and me and my team, we've been with Oklahoma City since early 2023. So we've been, working on these programs really just for, 3 years or so right now. So we're kind of starting to really see the effect of our activities and programs. So in 2024, we had 81 outreach events, and these are active events. These are, we are face-to-face, we're providing active training. So as far as we supported, we had 81 events. And in 2025, that number doubled to 161. This is tied, really, the number of outreach events is really tied to the more you get out into the more you're out in the community, the more events that you attend, the more connections you make. And these are both, professional, as well as, whether it's teachers or other, non-formal educators. There's so many fantastic events and programs that are being held in Oklahoma. And the more you get out in the community, the more you're going to meet these people, and they're going to realize what you do and what you can contribute to their events. And it's those invitations that continue to drive your activities. So I've seen that increase for our own metrics. This is also reflected in the number of youth that we have participating in our programs. In 23, we started with 914, and youth is defined as individuals under the age of 18. In 2024, that number went up to over 1,800 students, and then this past year, it exceeded 3,500. So again, we're seeing the more active engagement programs is where we're seeing the most growth. One growth that I'm really proud of is every year OKC has a residential survey that we send out to our residents, and there's various questions. But prior to 2021, we had a question on that residential survey that asked, basically we were trying to gauge the awareness of our residents of our household hazardous waste collection center. So this facility is something that we operate, and in 2021, that public awareness percentage was 64%. So through a lot of our advertising and active engagement and promoting this event everywhere we went, when we had that question reappear on the residential survey in 2025, that percentage increased to 73.9. So we're talking about a 10% increase in just a few years. That's huge. I can also see it in the number of events. We mentioned that, with our total number of outreach events increasing. But I also noticed that in the number of invitations that we received in 2025, 2 new events. So we had 6 new programs, 6 new events that we attended in 2025, and we're seeing that growth in those numbers as well. So we had 5,778 in 2024, and that increased to 8,208 here in 2025. So every event you go to, you never know who you're going to meet and what kind of opportunities are going to come out of that connection. So I want to show you one of the programs that came from one of our collaborations, and this is our first example of a program that you could potentially implement within your own community. And this is, I'm going to play the video. I hope the music won't be too loud. So this is a program that we do with our Parks and Rec department as part of their adventure camps. So they run these camps 4 times a year as part of students, like spring break, winter break, when they're in school, they have these camps as an option for parents to register their kids. So this program, we have to collaborate with a lot of different partners. So we're first collaborating with Parks and Rec, right? This is a program that they have invited us to participate in. We also have to collaborate with our Parks and Rec grounds maintenance team. So anytime that we want to hold this event in our Walker Wetland area, they make sure that the grounds are ready, that it's been the areas where we're going to be, that they've been mowed, there's no hazards. And then we also collaborate with our HOT team, or our homeless outreach team, out of our OKC PD. So they'll sweep the area, make sure it's a safe environment for the kids. And then we also tap our own staff. So we have our environmental section. They have been absolutely critical for this program. We could not do this without them. Both for their the equipment and their knowledge, and then we also engage our drone pilot. So all this footage that that we were able to get on this beautiful day was from our internal drone pilot. So this program has gone through a lot of growth. We've done 5 so far, and every single one has been different. The different activities that we've done, we're evaluating how the kids are reacting, and we're changing, we're growing. So it's just every program is going to be that way. And just to give you an idea of the impact that this program can have. So in 2025, we did 4 camps, and then we also had one event that we did with OKC Beautiful's Earth Academy. And through that, we had 218 different youth contacts. And when it comes to youth, focusing on youth programs just in general, you could attend hiring, college, career, volunteer fairs, tap your local library and their events. Obviously, schools is an option, and then all of your partnering events. Like I said, the more contacts you make, the more events you're going to learn that are being done by your partners. Now for MCM2, that is, if you remember, that's the industrial stormwater runoff. One of the programs that we do is our industrial workshop. So this is one of our biggest events of the year. It's a 2-day workshop. And if you're interested, I want to make sure everybody knows that our next workshop is going to be Tuesday, May 12th or May 13th. The same information is covered both days, so all you have to do is pick one. And that QR code will take you right to the registration page. But, our target audience, for this particular are our industrial permittees. But it's but it takes a lot of collaboration too. We collaborate with community partners for venues. We collaborate with different vendors that will appear at the event, to provide information, door prizes. We collaborate with a lot of city staff for our speakers and the presentations. Most of the cost for this event is really just related to catering. Everything else, we try to provide in-house. And then to give you an idea of the impact these programs can have, for 2025, we really average about 80 people attending each of these for 160 total. Something else we do for MCM2 is an award program. So our industrial section, they will present High Five Awards. And these are an award that recognizes industrial facilities for innovative stormwater quality best practices. And it can be anything. It can be where they had a fantastic stormwater management plan. Everything was, ship tight and updated, or they might have installed an innovative new best management practice on their facility grounds. It can be anything that our inspectors observe. And so it varies, how many we give away every year. But it's a really fantastic program. And then we feature them in our newsletter as well. For MCM3, so this is a big one. So if you'll remember, MCM3 was regarding illicit discharge elimination. And I'm going to cover a couple of different programs for this particular MCM, but one of them, our biggest one, and that really takes up a lot of our time and energy, are our volunteer programs. So we have 3 different volunteer programs. The 2 you see featured here are our Adopt a City Street and our Waterway Clean Sweep. As far as how we implement this, so we have online signups. We really take advantage of our webpage to help promote these programs. We outfit these programs and provide absolutely everything that a volunteer needs. So this is going back to that requirement where you want to make sure that you make it as easy as possible for your residents to participate. So we provide all the supplies, and that's really where the majority of the costs are associated with this particular program. It's really just based in providing the supplies, the litter grabbers, the trash bags, trash bag holders, nets, and then other safety items, like bug spray and sunscreen. Um, Beverage containers. We try to provide anything and everything. One of the most important parts of this program is really a new addition, is our 10 by 10 cargo trailer. And even this was not new. We were able to inherit that and repurpose it internally. And the cost, of course, came from having wrapped, but the design was in-house. So we really try to do as much as possible, in-house, and making sure we're reusing materials instead of buying new. With both of these programs, really, again, it comes with that internal collaboration, and that's you'll see that a recurrent theme with a lot of these programs. For Adopt a City Street, we collaborate with Solid Waste and Streets. So Streets are responsible for installing the 2 signs that are granted to our volunteer groups when they adopt a mile section. They get 2 signs, with their group name on them. At each end of the adopted street. And then Solid Waste, as part of their normal collection routes, once a group has done a cleanup and they have decided to leave the bags along their street, usually hopefully at a corner, our Solid Waste will be notified, and then that particular driver will be able to stop and collect that. So with Streets and Solid Waste, we couldn't do this program without them. With Waterway Clean Sweep, we collaborate heavily with Parks and Rec. They're the ones that provide us with an event permit. They provide us with dumpsters, and they are the ones that come behind us and collect everything that we have put in the dumpster. To give you an idea of the impact that this program has for 2025, our Waterway Clean Sweep, we had 11 events with 123 volunteers that collected 266 bags of trash, or a little over 6,900 pounds. With Adopt a Street, we had 103 events and 965 volunteers that collected 636 bags, which was about 10,800 pounds. And between, as far as ACS goes, we have about 90 miles of streets that are adopted. And we really have stayed very close to that for the last couple of years. But I mean, that's a huge impact, the amount of debris that's been removed just from these 2 programs. So this is another really great example where you can partner with an internal department. Our utilities department, over the last couple of months, they really were trying to get behind a new Recycle OKC initiative and help educate the public about what type of materials that the city actually accepts as part of our waste stream. So they have a new online database called What Goes Where. And this applies to the trash cart, the recycling cart, bulky waste pickup, and household hazardous waste, which, as I mentioned, we actually are responsible for managing. So this online database already has hundreds of items, and it's very easily updated, so we can always add more or make any tweaks. But it also includes an online form where customers can actually submit item suggestions. But this is something that every municipality could potentially replicate to make it easier for people to understand where they can dispose of these items. So it can cut down on illicit discharges, illegal dumping. If people know that, okay, I don't want this paint can anymore, and it's about half filled with paint, where can I take that? If they were to log on to this online database, type in paint, it's going to show up that, oh, paint, you can take this to household hazardous waste. Here's what you need to do. So this is a really fantastic example of something where multiple departments collaborated to make this new tool, this new resource reality. So I mentioned our HHW collection center. So this is a massive operation for us. It's been open since 2023. To help promote it, we have multi-platform advertising campaigns, including digital advertising. If you're not familiar with digital advertising, I really recommend that your organization research it. We use Tyler Media, and what you can do that's so unique with digital advertising is that you can select the individual zip codes that you want to promote to. So if you're trying to grow participation in a certain zip code, a certain region of your city, you can target those through a digital advertising campaign. That was a huge draw for us. So I highly recommend it if you are not aware of it already. But just to give you an idea of an impact that a collection center like this can have. Every year we serve almost 11,000 customers. We managed a little over 700,000 pounds of material, and then we were also able to recycle and reuse over 230 pounds of that 715,000. And we have community agreements with 10 different surrounding MS4s. So our kind of tied to HHW, this is another program that can be scaled as a special collection event. So our HHW center, they collect, your typical type of household hazardous waste, paints, lacquers, fertilizers, you name it. But the special collection event that we hold every year is usually held in the spring, kind of tie that into your spring cleaning. But we accept 4 other types of products that our HHW center does not normally collect. So this is a special kind of one-time a year event. But we collect tires, ammunition, computers, and medication at this particular event. And I do have a video, but I know I'm kind of running short on time, so I will I'll have to move on. But this is a really fantastic event, and again, a lot of collaboration, right? We're working with OKC Fairgrounds to host the event there. We're working with our own internal staff. We also work with outside partners to help us manage the waste that we collect. The tires are hauled off, the computers are recycled, medication and ammunition, are dealt with by OKC PD. So there's a lot of partners that are involved with this. We couldn't do this on our own. And just to give you an idea of the impact, in 2025, we kind of wanted to check and see, how we're performing. So this is a snapshot for the 48 events that we've held from 1995 to 2025. So for that 48 events, it was 5.2 million pounds that were collected in total. But you see it's broken down by ammunition, the medications, e-waste, tires, and in those events, we've had over 27,000 residents served. And if you happen to be an OKC resident, save the date. So the next special collection is on Saturday, April 11th from 9 to 1. All right, moving on to MCM number 4. So the programs that we implement for this, and if you'll remember, MCM 4 was construction, stormwater runoff. We have several different workshops that we collaborate with one of our other public works divisions to offer the contractor workshop and the engineer workshop. So the contractor workshop is the target audience is construction contractors. And this event has been scaled up over time from about a half day to a full day that now involves different partners. The next workshop we have scheduled right now for Thursday, April 30th. And this will be the first year that it is going to be a full day. And we've moved it from one of our own venues to the OKC Convention Center. So this should be a really exciting new look at this workshop. And the engineer workshop, that target audience is different from the contractor. So we're looking at the engineers, designers for that. That next workshop is still to TBA for 2026. But these are all things that you can scale. Like I mentioned, the contractor workshop, we started with a half day with 2 different sessions, and now they're moving up to a full day. So, as you grow, you can always make changes and make improvements and increase the extent every year. For MCM5, one of our biggest programs is our annual rain barrel sale. Again, this is done with partners. And I know I'm running short, so I won't be able to play this video either. But this is sort of the system for the sale. So if you want, this is one of the partners that we work with is the Central Oklahoma Stormwater Alliance to offer this program. It's very simple. You just, they set up the online order form for you. So as a municipality, you don't have to manage transactions, payments, manage a web page. They handle that entire thing for you. So they set this up. We set up a shortcut for okc.gov rain barrel that takes our residents right to our vendor's webpage. Then, all that they really have to do is just add those pickup dates to their calendar. They show up at one of our distribution events, they pick up their order, and then they're able to go home and install and enjoy their rain barrel. And we provide education about rainwater harvesting to them. So they know kind of rain barrel 101, composting 101, help them get started. This was a really fun program. Again, talking about MCM5, education and involvement. We did this project with OU students where they assisted in the design and installation of a rain barrel right here on our building. So this is just outside our windows here. But don't be afraid to tap into universities and other institutions for help with research design for public demo projects. One way that you can address a lot of MCMs at once, as far as education goes, are newsletters. We have 4 different e-newsletters, but they all cover various topics. So we have our quarterly newsletter that is really just an update about, kind of what we're up to. So it provides program updates, seasonal tips, like winterizing your rain barrel, lawn care. But we also talk about like public events that we have coming up, training events, staff highlights. But the next 2, the construction, excuse me, the construction and industrial training and education newsletters, those are specific to those industries. So construction will provide OCARE 10 permit education, training events, permit fee updates, and industrial will do the same thing, but focus more on the OCARE 05 permit. Our newest and most recent is our volunteer newsletter. So that is something that Holly and I developed just last year, and it was really to help promote our volunteer programs. So we put our event schedules, program tips. So if you're already one of our volunteer groups, we want to make sure that you're really familiar with the process, and so we'll provide you tips to help you navigate our systems better. We want to highlight all the great work that's being done. So it has MVP highlights, volunteer photos, and then also progress updates on, how much waste we've collected already. So it kind of gives our residents an idea of where we are, how much material we've collected, and then where we'd like to go. What's our goal for that year? So sorry, excuse me. Finally, to close, I want to talk about the different resources and community partners that we have that are available for you, especially as municipalities. Is the Central Oklahoma Stormwater Alliance. I've mentioned them already as one of our partners for our rain barrel sale. So they're a 501c3 not-for-profit, and they're based right here in Oklahoma City. And their mission is really to provide resources and platforms for their members to help them reduce the impact of contaminated stormwater through, stewardship, different programs, activities, projects. But we've been a member of COTSWA for a long, long time. And I've worked for other municipalities as well that have been members, and it's amazing the amount of resources that in organizations like this can provide you to help you manage your stormwater program, especially your outreach. So they offer quite a few different options for membership. If you're an MS4 member, you can see that they've broken it down by category. So it's a tiered dues system. But we wanted to make sure, it's all inclusive, that smaller MS4s would be able to, participate and take advantage of these different benefits. But we also wanted to open it up to our affiliate members, which has a minimum $100 donation. And then it also has a tiered if there is a desire to donate and participate more. And then we have the Friends of COSWA. This is really meant as like an introductory membership, making sure that if there's no dues or donations, but it's usually for a year just to give everybody an opportunity to learn more about COSWA and see if they would like to upgrade to an affiliate or MS4 membership. And those friends, you can benefits are limited to just the e-newsletter and attending our quarterly membership meetings. So to give you an idea of how COSWA can help your outreach needs is take a look at some of the metrics for COSWA for this year. So we've talked a lot about, just distributing materials. That was one of the requirements. So, issuing promotional items at different events, providing training. COSWA has a YouTube channel that we provide a lot of training on. Facebook is a great way to get the message out, along with a website, which also has a lot of different training resources on it. We provide training events. Last year we did 9. I mentioned that advertising is a huge aspect of an outreach program, and COSWA really helps you to do that by combining everybody's resources to do radio, digital billboards, as well as digital advertising, printed materials, you name it. But that's a huge aspect, and that's a lot of contacts. We also have the Rain Barrel sale that COSWA helps facilitate, as well as a Rain Barrel grant program. So like all of these tied together could be a really great boon to your outreach program. And these are just some of the platforms that COSWA operates under. So you have our website, there's an annual report, member directories, training materials, meeting minutes, the Facebook page. We try to post job announcements. If you're in the market, it's a great resource. We also offer program details, regulatory updates, member recognition. And then, as I mentioned, YouTube, we post all of our recordings, both of our membership meetings and all of our training events. So to close, moving forward, some recommendations for you as you're developing your outreach program, or if you're thinking about just developing a new program. Start small. Pick a few programs that you want to develop, but the key is to keep growing. Expand your programs each year, and that'll look different depending on the program that you're developing. It's a volunteer program. Maybe you want to purchase more supplies so you can support more volunteers. Or if you want to add technology to one of your programs by developing a power app with your IT department. We already talked about our contractor workshop that has grown from just a webinar to a half-day workshop. Now it's a full-day workshop. But one thing you can do right away is really make full use of your existing resources. Don't dismiss, the power of your social media, your city webpage, and make those contacts, get involved with your other department programs, see what they're doing. I know when I was working for a smaller MS4, I learned something new every year that other departments were doing. And it's just part of breaking down those silos and making those connections with staff and other departments and learning what they're doing and seeing how you can get involved. All of this possibility is right there already for you. So just make full use of what you already have. And again, don't reinvent the wheel. Like I mentioned, there's so many fantastic things happening across Oklahoma. So, keep looking at those internal partnerships, keep developing those community partnerships, because when it comes to public outreach, really, I think those partnerships are the key to just continued growth. All right. Well, that is all I have for you guys today. And I would be really happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Jordan. Great presentation. If anyone has any questions for Jordan, please be sure to type them into chat unless you do need to take yourself off mute to ask that question. We did get a few comments. Sarah Terry Cabo said, wow, look at the increase in the youth participation. Kelsey Wharton, awesome outreach numbers. You all do so much great work. Derek Johnson did want to emphasize that the OKC residents only for the special collections event in April. And then Melanie had commented that the contractor workshop possibly may be in June. And then our first true question is from Sarah Terry Cabo. Are there any other new challenges you face with an outreach program that's maybe different than 5 to 10 years ago? How do you handle those?
Ooh, Sarah, that's a great question. I don't know if it's necessarily, anything new or, anything that I didn't mention already, but the one thing that I've really noticed since I started in public outreach was just the change in technology. I mentioned that, there's a potential challenge with tech literacy. And, as smartphones started becoming more commonplace, QR codes, online ordering, it was just, everybody went from a very paper-driven program, and now everybody is desperately trying to get away from paper. But we're still running into that where there was a few people kind of left behind when it came to technology. And that's a really big challenge. It's something that we have to consider with a lot of different programs, and we have to provide, both ways. We have to provide both. Let's say in the, for example, anytime we want to do a survey, we usually have to have an option for people to do a handwritten survey at the event. But for those that are comfortable using a QR code, we also provide a QR code as a table display that they can participate in the survey that way. So that's the one that really comes to mind for me, is really technology, is just how much that's grown, how quickly it's grown, and it's still left a few people behind.
I agree. And then I guess I did misspeak. Derek Johnson didn't correct me. Engineering workshop may be in June, not the contractors workshop. That will be in April. Wayne Craney then asked, how has your experience with HOAs been?
Oh, that's a great question, Wayne. Where we really come into contact with HOAs is typically through the Neighborhood Alliance of Central Oklahoma, as well as with our rain barrel sale. We've also had, not since I've been with OKC, but I've also had other experience with HOAs, asking us to come and talk to them about different programs. And overall, it's been pretty positive with HOAs. They're usually really happy to be provided the information. Another way that we work with HOAs is through our Household Hazardous Waste Collection Center, and having mobile collections where they can reach out to us. We pick a city park that's owned by the city, and they can advertise to their own HOAs. To their HOA members about participating, and just makes it a little bit easier instead of coming down to the center. Let's say they're on the north side of OKC. If we can pick a north side park, they are able to make that arrangement. But me personally, I don't have any negative experiences with HOAs. Really, oftentimes they're just very appreciative.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any further questions coming from the chat. Again, I know that some people don't have access to the chat, so if you do have a question for Jordan, please let us know, unmute yourself, and we can ask questions that way as well. Okay, with all that said, remember, if anyone would like to receive a certificate of attendance for today's presentation, please send us an email to request it. We are placing my email again into chat. Please don't request certificates in the chat because we may not have your email address linked to your username on Teams. I will send those out this week. As we've also mentioned, a recording of today's presentation will be available online in the next week or so, and we will put that on the web We will put that website link into chat for you now. We'd like to share that OKC's YouTube channel now features all the recorded webinars and lunch and learns and a playlist, making it easier than ever to access these training resources. While we are adding my email and the link into our webinar page and chat, I would like to share a few important resources that are available to you. First up are our newsletters. We have 4 you can pick from, including our quarterly newsletter, our construction and industrial newsletters, and our volunteer newsletter. In that quarterly newsletter, you're going to find program updates, seasonal tips, training events, and the construction and the industrial, you'll both find training events, permittee fees, and the industrial one, you'll find those high five awards, and of course, those OKR 10 and OKR 5 respective education trainings. And then in the volunteer newsletter, we have event schedules, program tips, MVP highlights, volunteer photos, and progress updates on all of our stuff. The second resource we want to share is from our Action Center. One of the most common questions our staff receive is, how can I report an environmental issue like a spill? If you witness a spill or any threat to the environment, we encourage you to report it to calling OKC's Action Center. The Action Center can receive reports in a lot of different ways, so if you don't want to call in, you can also send in your concern by email, text, or even Twitter, which I think is now referred to as X. These concerns are then sent directly to us so our team can respond and investigate. Before we wrap up today, we would love to receive your feedback, so please complete our brief survey by scanning the QR code now shown on your screen. While we are doing that, we would like to invite everyone back for our 2 bonus webinars in March. On March 17th, we'll welcome Terry Craghead, founder and CEO of the Fertile Ground Cooperative, and Jack Eaton with Care of Engineered Fabrics as they discuss using compost as a stormwater quality control measure. Then on March 27th, our own Samira Matchie, a student of the University of Oklahoma and current intern with the OKC Stormwater Quality Division, will give us an insider's tour of the first net zero school in Texas. Until then, thank you for attending today's session and have a great afternoon. Yes, stormwater quality responds quickly to Action Center reports. Great collaboration there. Thank you, Sarah.